When we watch movies, news, or even scroll through social media, politics often look like a story of heroes and villains. But in real life, it's not that simple. In Politics in a Tragic Key by Alberto Toscano, 2010, he explains that politics is full of contradictions, sacrifices, and unexpected results. He says that tragedy is something we usually think of as sad or negative, but it can actually help us understand the real struggles of political life. Toscano's idea reminds us that behind every political success or failure, there are hard choices, conflicts, and lessons about power and justice. His works also connects to how people today view leaders through popular culture, especially in the media, where political stories are often simplified or dramatized. Now, to explain this idea further, Lawrence will discuss how politics and popular culture are connected and how media shapes our understanding of power and leadership.
So, politics in the Philippines isn't just about laws and leaders, it is also about its spectacle. As Tolentino said, he explains that politicians use songs, celebrities, and media to connect them emotionally with voters. And we think of that as jingles. Like the song they use is commonly known as Itak Mo, Bum Tarat Tarat, or Budots by Bong Revilla. Like that. They are catchy when we heard about it, and it may also distract us from any kind of serious situations or real issues in the Philippines, like the poverty and its corruption. And when we say that they are using that kind of jingles, they are projecting their views of being incompetent as a leader or a public servant. And that's when we notice that they use that kind of jingles to deceive those people who are not educated enough, not politically aware, or those who are just real fanatics in the Philippines. They are using that kind of people to connect them and to get their votes from it. So usual trapo techniques, right? When we say trapo techniques, that these are kind of traditional politicians in short, trapo. It also becomes a tool of control. It entertains us, creates a sense of belonging, and makes the politics feels like a game show instead of being or showing to the Filipino people that you are competent to become a public servant. Back to Toscano, it adds that the popular culture often turns into a political entertainment. Leaders become heroes, struggle becomes a spectacle, and the public becomes an audience. This fusion of politics and performance hides the deeper conflicts of the power. It's not even a new concept. It's just people that are easily deceived. Very similar to what Descano described as evil schemes. Now proceeding to the killing agency. As Tolentino describes the killing agency as a cultural system that slowly kills our critical awareness, not through violence but through pleasures. But under Duterte's administration, this concept took on a literal and disturbing form. Behind the spectacles of a strong leadership was a brutal reward system for killings. Now, I have this confidential report that shared with some connections with a police officer. Not literally connection, but what they heard from the rumor or what I heard from the rumor. These are the confidential information that I'm going to expose. Now, during the drug war, it reveals that some officers receive 50,000 pesos or even millions for executing suspect drug pushers. But many of the suspects were actually police assets to operate as a pusher. Policeman as a pusher, right? Only to be eliminated when caught, even though that leader was paying you to operate as a pusher. Now, that kind of scheme was so evil. And these killings weren't random. They are actually orchestrated when we can notice about it. And this part of scheme that turned death into currency and violence into policy, which is so brutal.
And to add up to what Lawrence had said, Toscana's idea about killing agency is not only about real killings, but also about how our awareness and empathy slowly die. During Duterte's time, this happened in two ways. First, in a literal sense, because of the killings done in the name of drug war, and second in a symbolic sense through media and public reactions that made violence seems normal and acceptable, which is not, and many people got used to hear about deaths on the news every night or even supported it online. And this shows that killing agency didn't just take lives, it also changed how people think and feel about violence. What often is not talked about is that how this affects ordinary people. Fear, silence, and indifference became part of everyday life. People stopped asking questions because they were scared or felt powerless. This is how the killing agency works. It kills our ability to care and think critically. And connecting this to Toscana's tragic politics, the tragedy is not only in the loss of lives, but in how society starts to lose its sense of humanity. It reminds us to stay aware and to question systems that makes violence seems normal. Now let's talk about Toscana's ideas about middle class fantasy. This means that many people dream of living a comfortable, peaceful, and safe life without problems, risks, or conflicts. It's a fantasy because in real life, society is full of inequality and struggle. But people try to ignore that as long as their own lives are stable. In the Philippines, we can see this during and after Duterte's term. Many middle-class citizens supported his drug war because they felt their neighborhood felt safer. They focused on comfort and order, not realizing that many poor people were actually dying without justice. Social media also played a big role in this fantasy because it showed an image of success, nice houses, new cars, travels, and gadgets while hiding the suffering of others. This made politics seem less important, as if being good and obedient was enough to live peacefully. But Toscana reminds us that real political change is not easy or comfortable. It involves facing hard truths and standing up for what is right, even when it's risky. The middle class fantasy teaches us how easy it is to look away from injustice when we're comfortable.
Now, to sum up, what we've seen today in the politics isn't just about happenings in the Congress in Malacanang. It is happening on our screens, our malls, our playlists, and even in our silence. Toscano's tragic lens reminds us that this politics isn't just a fairy tale of heroes and villains. It is a battle of contradictions, where comfort becomes complicity and entertainment that becomes erasure. Through Tolentino's killing agency and middle class fantasy, we see how culture can be used not just to distract, but to control, to numb, and to normalize injustice. So, proceeding to Duterte's rise, it wasn't just about policy, it was about the performance of it, his hypermasculinity, his jokes, his violence. They weren't actually accident. They were a part of spectacle that made brutality look strength. And silence feels like they are safe from criminals like that, but they are not. But the real tragedy isn't just about the killings. It is how we stop asking questions, how we traded that kind of awareness for a comfort, how we become audience instead of actors in our democracy. So to challenge this kind of thing, will we keep consuming the show or we start writing script? That's what it is happening right now. Because politics isn't just what we watch. It is what we choose to feel and to fight for. Thank you.